back again for our final lab on simple machines. This is the pulley lab. This should be a good time. You should have a lot of fun with this. All right, so here we go with our simple machines lab, the pulley. Our materials, we need a stand, we need a 250 gram spring scale, we need a set of 250 gram slotted brass weights, and we need 2 to 3 single pulleys and a piece of 1/4 inch line, or 1/8 inch line, sorry, couldn't read it through the phone. All right, so here is our stand. Sorry, here's our stand, and we have our spring scale, we have our slotted weights, and I've got a line here and a couple of pulleys. So here are pulleys. They are single wheel pulleys. All right, so our first step is to set up a table that has 5 columns and 2 rows. And you can see at number 2 here that it gives us the titles for the columns. So this is what you should set up on your sheet. Got 5 columns. I haven't labeled the 5th one yet. I wanted to work through and have the lab unfold for me here, so I haven't labeled that one yet. And then the first thing that we're going to do is our deadlift, like we've done for the other labs. So here is our spring scale. Here is our stack of weights. I'm going to lift this up, get it high enough that I can see. And there we go. Kind of see it through there. And so we're sitting at about 250 again. So nothing has changed from the last 2 times that we've done this. All right, now our directions say, we're down here, the one fixed pulley part. Oh, we have to record our deadlift, sorry. So here we go, 250 grams. All right, now we're down here at the one fixed pulley. Now what a fixed pulley is a pulley that can't move. Like this one's a fixed pulley. It's hanging on the rack here. It can't go anywhere because it's attached to the rack. So it's a fixed pulley. So what we're going to do is attach our weight stack to the bottom of this pulley. I can attach the spring scale to the loop I've made in the line here. You can see I've screwed down my stand, so hopefully it's going to stay in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this just enough to get this weight stack off the ground. And now let's come over here and see what we can see. Hold it over the bench so we can see it. And we are at 250 grams still. So that's not helping us at all. And that's okay. That was what that was supposed to be. So let's come over here. Oops, I was on low power mode. I'm not sure if we missed anything there, but we're coming over here. We're writing down our 250 grams. So one fixed pulley did not do anything for us as far as making it easier to lift. But what it did for us was change the direction. So if this was a flag that we were running up a flagpole, I'm pulling down to go up. But also if I had to lift this weight, it actually is helping me to some degree. It's not making the relative weight that I'm having to move, it's not making that any different, but I can use my weight to pull down on this and lift that weight up instead of me getting up under here, bending down, picking it up with my hands and driving up with my legs and trying to lift that rascal up. So just the change of direction is a significant help, even though it's not taking any of the weight away. All right, now we're moving on to the second part of the lab, or the third part, depending on how you want to look at it, but we're on to the one movable pulley part of the lab. So a movable pulley is a pulley that's not fixed. Remember that this is a fixed pulley. It can't go anywhere. It's attached to the frame. So this time, following the directions here, now take everything off the stand, attach the pulley to the weight stack. So here I'm attaching the pulley to the weight stack. Feed the line through the pulley and attach one into one of the cup hooks on the stand. So there, I'm doing that. I'm going to put some tension on this to hold the weight stack, and then attach the other end of the line to the spring scale. And you can see I've just put a loop in here. I haven't cranked it down real tight, but I've just got a loop in here to attach the spring scale to. Get the slack out of the way here, and now I'm going to lift the stack off the table and see what the scale is going to tell us here. zoom in here. So we're hovering around 225 grams. And remember, the stack weighs 250 grams. So just attaching this one movable pulley is giving us some advantage here. And look at why it's a movable pulley. It can move, as I'm moving, it's moving too. It's riding on the line, on the rope that it's attached to. So it's a movable pulley. A fixed pulley just sits up here and can't go anywhere at all. It's fixed in place. All right, so we need to write down our 225 grams over here with one movable pulley. So you can see our deadlift was 250 grams. Just using a fixed pulley was 250 grams. So that didn't give us any change in relative weight at all, but remember, the change of direction is an important advantage. So pulling down to make something go up instead of having to pick it up is helpful. So it is part of being a simple machine, even though it's not making the load any lighter. All right, now let's move on to the next step, where we have two fixed and one movable. Leave the pulleys in place. Let's see, take the line out, set the spring scale down. All right, I'm adding a fixed pulley to the cross piece here. Loop one end of the line for the hook on the stand's cross piece. Feed the other line through the movable pulley and back up. I'm going to use the other end of the line. I'm going to have to take out my spring scale loop here so that I've got enough line to run around here. All right, now this time, so I'm attached to a fixed point here. I've got my one movable pulley, I've got my one fixed pulley. Oh, so my chart's not right. I wrote two fixed, one movable. We need to do the one fixed, one movable first. So I'll have to adjust that before we record our data. All right, reading down, attach the loop to the spring scale, so I need to put another loop in here. Good, I'm not cinching it down tight because I want to be able to get it out. And this time we're going to be pulling down to get our reading. Pulling enough to get the load off of the bench. All right, so we're sitting right around 100. You can see the weight stack is still off of the workbench here. So let's record our data there. Set it back down again. I've got to fix my table. This was not two, this was one. One fixed, one movable. 100 grams. That was a huge change that time, to have one fixed, one movable, to use two pulleys like this together. All right, and carrying on, now we're going to use two fixed. All right, so here's another variation. I've taken the line from up here and I've put it down at the bottom. So the fixed point doesn't always have to be at the top. Get some tension on this and hook it back up. There we go. All right, and now I can lift that. So the fixed point can be at the bottom, and then I still have work being done here. So this is two fixed pulleys and a movable pulley. Points of interest here in pulleys. One is that it kind of matters how you run the line, the rope through the pulley. So you can see I've got it fixed to a hard point here and then immediately ran through a pulley. And now when I lift this weight, it still works, but the pulley, the top left pulley is not doing anything for me. If anything, it's an encumbrance. So the way the line runs matters. I'm just being silly with this one, but it just shows you the movable pulley has to be attached to the weight. Because see, this does no work at all. I'm not budging this weight. I've switched to a 100 gram weight there because it's just a little more stable than the weight stack while I'm doing this. But see, that does nothing for me. So the movable pulley has to be attached to that weight. All right, let's talk about what we see in this picture here. And again, this is a still photograph that I've captured out of the video, so there's not going to be any movement to it. Um, but what we're seeing here is the two pulleys. You've got a fixed point where the line is attached at the upper left-hand corner. Then you have a movable pulley where the load is attached, and then you go back up to a fixed pulley, and then we're pulling down as if, picture yourself standing on the floor of, I don't know, a barn or something like that, and you're lifting something heavy up. So what is happening here, what's making this work so well for us, is that the pulleys are carrying part of the weight, just like the inclined plane carried part of the weight. You know, a ramp, when we're shoving the rock up the ramp or dragging the weight up the ramp is holding the weight for us, or at least a good part of the weight, so that we're not having to do that. So the movable pulley and the fixed pulley and the fixed point in the top left-hand corner, each of them is carrying a portion of the weight of the load. So that my hand, all the way on the right-hand side, down low, you can't see it, but that's only carrying 1/4 of the load, because the fixed point, the movable pulley, and the fixed pulley are all carrying a part of it. All right, guys, we're wrapping up our student lab on pulleys. I did this week kind of differently. Usually I would do a lecture with a demonstration to start things off, and then we'll apply that when we do a lab. This time we did the lab first, and then we're going to move into the application next. So your mission right now, after having watched the lab, is to write down your observations. Remember, that includes copying the data table, and then also writing down any narrative that you saw, you know, Scott did this is what happened, kind of thing. And then write your conclusion. This is why what happened. So why is it that the pulleys made work easier for me? And remember, there's two ways to make work easier with simple machines. It's a change of direction, and it's a change of magnitude of force. All right, get those to me, and we'll be moving on and looking at how I use pulleys around the house.